Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Common Law Court of Wales radio broadcast from Helga Greenyuk. It's Donetsk you're in, Helga, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Hello.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Helga.
Thank you.
Before we get into the geopolitics and the intricacies of the war and whatnot, to let our listeners understand a bit about the people of Donetsk. Now, we had a chat about this, and I was quite astonished, although I have spoke to a few of my friends who were aware of this fact, but actually, to my embarrassment, I was not aware that Donetsk has very strong ties with Wales and the people of Wales.
Sure, because Donetsk was founded by your countryman, John Hughes, who was an engineer and a businessman, and who also helped to build the industry, great, strong industry here, because it is one of the most industrially developed regions in the entire Ukraine, and it was one of the most industrially developed regions in the former USSR as well. But it was he, John Hughes, who started it all here. He was the one who built the first forgeries and coal mines and metal producing plants here in Donbass. And the city, which is now a very big city with big population of several million people, this city was built around the settlement, that settlement in which industrial workers lived. So it is a piece of your history as well as ours.
Absolutely.
And the citizens of our republic, they really revere and respect very much the founder of the city. They always tell children, adolescents about him. There is an exposition in the Museum of Local Law here, of course.
Yes, I was absolutely astounded to hear that when you told me, Helga, but it's true. John Hughes, he was from a town called Merthyr Tydfil. So any of our listeners who are not familiar, as I was not familiar, I urge you to do a bit of research, because it's absolutely fascinating. And through John Hughes's work and the building of the industry, as you quite rightly said, was the foundations on which Donbass or Donetsk, excuse me, is based. The people are very similar, Helga. There was a lot of Welsh people who decided to stay on and are still descendants are there to this day. That's correct, is it?
Well, do you mean the descendants of John Hughes?
Well, and the workforce, because a lot of Welshmen went over Donetsk to help John Hughes, and
also Germans, French nationals, the representatives of many nations, many European nations.
Yes.
And we also have Greek population here, because historically Catherine the Great, she moved the Greeks from the Crimea to the Azov Sea shore, and Donetsk is not far from this Azov Sea shore, so there are many Greeks also here. This region is very international, and of course the representatives of British working class helped a lot in the establishment of our industry. I told you that the sons of John Hughes, they kept on with his business after he died. He had 4 sons who also worked here. They owned big plants and coal mines here.
Yeah, so is a traditional working class population there now.
Yes, because this region has always been rich in mineral resources, and you know that if people where in the region where there are great reserves of coal and iron ore, industry is always proliferating. It is being built here and of course it has always had great importance for the economy of the country.
Here in Wales, we are very much built on the foundation of our coal industry and our steel industry. It's very similar, I think, to Donetsk. That's just for the listeners to build a picture of the people of Donetsk are very much similar to the working class people all over the world. We're tied with the same morals and ethics. I think you'd agree, Helga.
Yes, of course. Well, I was not born here. I was not. I'm not a local of Donetsk because I arrived here only last year after the coup, after the armed coup in Kiev. I used to live in Kiev before, and when I came here, I was greatly astonished to find out that people here are so open, so sincere. They have this team spirit, this collectivist sentiment that, of course, in the circumstances of war, they have shown great sympathy to each other. They have got together so much. You should have seen it. The way they help each other, the way they support each other, especially elderly people. The elderly people and children get a lot of attention. So yes, I admire these people very much. They are very industrious, very laborious. Everybody, you must have seen the pictures, the photos of the streets of Donetsk. Everybody is puzzled to some extent to see that they are kept clean, even under the given circumstances, even in spite of the fact that the war is going on and the outskirts of the city are shelled, and at times the communications are destroyed, the water pipes are being damaged, the gas pipes, the electricity lines. But the utility workers of the city, they are at times they perform miracles, because under the fire at times they restore the communications in order for the people, for the population to have water and gas supply and electricity supply, and they clean the streets and they plant flowers. And Donetsk is a very clean city even now. These people are very, very laborious, very hard-working people.
I watched the parade, Helga, and as the parade went through the square, there are different branches of the people, the utilities. They had the electricians there, they had the farmers, they had the steel workers, all passing through in the parade, and the cheering was quite moving, actually. It was incredible. I mean, there was the military there as well towards the end, who were obviously heroes in their own right, but the parade itself, it had everybody involved who took part in that parade, and it was clear to see that the steel worker and the miner, they're all together, and the people were cheering. It was very moving, and backs up 100% what you just said there. Anyway, we'll just shift gears here now and try to get to the situation the best we can. In 2004, large protests began, which was the Colour Revolution #1. Would you like to speak a little bit about that, Helga, in order to give our listeners a background to what then followed on?
Well, basically, I should say it was a rehearsal. What happened later, 10 years later, and when they saw that that the whole world put up with it, and nobody noticed anything wrong with it, that it was, Europe took it as if it was really the volition of the people, that the people went to the streets to express their sentiments, to express their protest against their ruler and against the elections which they thought had been rigged. But it was only the canopy, the cover, and under the canopy was a plot, and as you must have known for some time, that non-governmental organizations founded by the U.S. State Department had been working in Ukraine for some 20 years since the breakdown of the USSR.
Helga,
Yes.
may I just quote what The Guardian wrote at the time? Because this is quite an insight, and this is what The Guardian, the newspaper here, wrote in the UK. The campaign, which was known as the Orange Revolution, is an American creation, a sophisticated and brilliantly conceived exercise in Western branding and mass marketing that, in 4 countries in 4 years, has been used to try and salvage rigged elections and topple unsavoury regimes. The Democratic Party's National Democratic Institute, the Republican Party's International Republican Institute, the US State Department and USAID are all the main agencies involved in these grassroots campaigns. So that's a paper here in the West exactly naming these NGOs, non-government organisations, and that was named in the Guardian newspaper at the time. So that just goes to clarify and back up exactly what you said there, Helga. I thought it'd be important to put that in, but please continue.
Yes, of course, there is a long list of those organizations, but that is what you can find in the open sources. And if you dig deeper, you will find that some paramilitary organizations had been founded and had been supported by the West. These paramilitary organizations, they enlisted many young people from predominantly from the west regions of Ukraine, where the nationalist sentiment has always been strong. Because, as you may know, during the Second World War, some groups among the population in the Western Ukraine, they collaborated with Hitler. They joined the so-called Ukrainian insurgent army, who supported Hitler, who fought with the Soviet army on the side of Germany. That is why after the victory of the Soviet Union, after the victory of the Allies in the Second World War, and we know that Great Britain and the Soviet Union had been, and the USA, of course, had been the Allies, and they together conquered fascist Nazi Germany at that time. But even then, the USA government, perhaps they felt that the Cold War was imminent. They decided to use these people, and these people, the fighters from the Ukrainian insurgent army, they had been used as camp guards. You must have heard guards in those death camps that had been in the territory of Poland and the Baltic states. And these Ukrainians, they had been used as guards. And after the war, they had been moved to Canada, lots of them, hundreds, and to the USA. And they had been supported by the governments, and they created their own cult of, Ukrainian nationalism, and their own myth about Russia, who had always tried to dominate Ukrainians, to rule Ukrainians, and to suppress them. And they wrote books, they created teachings, wrote theses, historical books, all kind of literature, and then it was all brought here in Ukraine.
There was a combination of what you just mentioned there, and for the listeners to research themselves, it was called Operation Gladio, where after World War II the West was a bit paranoid about Russia just running straight through Europe. So they left pockets of Nazis, basically. The Americans employed the Secret Service for Germany at the time in order to do this operation, which is Operation Gladio. For anyone who wishes to research it, it is well documented. Again, it backs up exactly what Helga is talking about. But yes, please.
So they deliberately started to sow the seeds of nationalism in the soil of Ukrainian cultural and educational sphere, and part of the society got contaminated with this virus, because it is always easy for the people to think that there is some external enemy who is responsible for all the hardships, for all the failures of the nation. And it seems parts of the population of Ukraine had lost critical approach. They lost the ability to analyze the situation. They had been taught that it is Russia who is the perpetrator of a lot of crimes. We had been talking about this famine. You must have heard about this.
Yeah.
This campaign that was undertaken by the government of President Yushchenko, who came to power as a result of that Orange Revolution. And by the way, he seized power in an unconstitutional way because he became the president as a result of the third tour of elections. And this third tour was not envisaged by the Ukrainian constitution. It shouldn't have happened, but it did happen with the support of the Western nations, of Europe, of the USA, because Yushchenko was their man. Even his wife is an American citizen, and she had been working for this department, for the US Department of State. It is also a well-known fact that Yushchenko's wife was working for the American government. Thus, so it was he who made Stepan Bandera. Perhaps you have heard this name. It was one of the Hitler's collaborationists, one of appearers, one of the leaders of this Ukrainian insurgent army. He was famous for his anti-Semitism, and this man was granted the title of the hero of Ukraine by President Yushchenko. And President Yushchenko also started the campaign of trying to present the famine of 1930s as genocide of Russians against the Ukrainians. Although, as historical research shows us, the famine that really was a great humanitarian catastrophe at the time, it occurred not only in Ukraine, but on the vast territories of Russia, of Kazakhstan, of Belarus. And many people died as a result of artificially created famine. When grain was confiscated from the peasants and exported, exchanged for some other goods by the Soviet authorities. And it, of course, it is a great crime of the Stalinist regime. But it cannot be portrayed as genocide. And it was just nonsense to blame the Russian people and Russia to blame Russian people in it, but it was what had been done. People had been told that here is your enemy. All you have to do is to fight this enemy, to liberate our nation from this enemy, and then we will live happily ever after.
Very strong propaganda, Helga, and
yes, sure. And people like me, they have always seen it. They have always felt the injustice of it, and we had always been trying to do everything to counteract it.
But as you say, they put this in textbooks and things in order to divide the people, basically.
Yes, they did. They put it in textbooks in history. They included into the schedule when students at schools studied literature.
Yes.
They included several works of nationalist writers who had been banned in the Soviet Union, but their works had been included after the Orange Revolution in the school schedules. Yeah. And in those novels and stories, history had also been distorted, and Russians had been portrayed as evil people, as enemies.
This goes back to these NGOs, non-government organisations, and other means of manipulation which plant these seeds within society. Now, if we come forward then 10 years to 2013, where at a time when the government of Ukraine, on the 21st of November 2013, when the rightful president, Yanukovych, suspended the preparations for the implementation of an association agreement with the European Union. When the government suspended that, these NGOs and everything, it all created into another mass protest, basically funded by the same NGOs, including the National Endowment for Democracy and all these other groups that we're familiar with by now. They all went into full gear at that point, Helga, did they, in 2013?
Yes, they did. We should also note the role of the media.
Indeed.
Because the media in Ukraine, it was owned by oligarchs. The TV channels, the biggest TV channels in Ukraine had been owned by oligarchs, and these oligarchs had all been influenced by the Western. They kept their money in the Western banks, so they had been under the influence of the Western politicians. And of course, they helped to impose this propaganda. And when Yanukovych didn't sign the association agreement, of course, he made some grave mistakes, it seems to me, because he didn't explain to the people. There was no wide public discussion of this agreement. People should have known that economically Ukraine would have suffered greatly and it is suffering now. Everybody can see it, that the economic is collapsing, not only due to the war, because actually what is happening, Ukrainian authorities claim that it is because of the war that Ukraine is on the brink of default. But it is not true, because the war is financed by the USA. They give all kinds of materials. They give all kinds of aid to the Ukrainian army. And the Ukrainian army has enough arms, even without this help. It had always had enough of arms since the Soviet times. The former Prime Minister Nikolai Azarov wrote about it in his blog recently. He said that even without that military equipment, Ukraine had lots of arms at the storage facilities. And he said, when I was a prime minister, I didn't even know what to do with all these tanks and cannons and howitzers and all the rest of it. So they do not spend so much on the hostilities. And the economy is failing, is crashing because many industrial enterprises stopped working because they have broken the ties with Russia. Russia was the main market for Ukrainian goods because Ukrainian goods could never compete with the products produced in the European Union, for example, because of the standards. And the cost of moving to European standards was too high for the country. The country couldn't bear it. And that was the reason why Yanukovych stopped on the edge of signing the agreement. He took a pause because his advisors told him that it was very unwise to sign this agreement without having agreed upon with the European Union that the European Union will give great funds, will subsidize these reforms. He asked for a big sum of money, and they told him they couldn't give him even the third part of this money. And of course, that part of the population that had been indoctrinized by Western propaganda, it reacted very badly to it, especially students, intelligentsia, artists, writers, journalists, all of them, because they expected that they would be given the non-visa regime with the US. They would go there on holidays, and everybody will welcome them in Europe, and perhaps they will move to live in Europe. It's true. A lot of people had such illusions that it could have been so easy to enter the European Union for Ukraine.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dangling a carrot. We call it over here. Try to into temptation. You know that the grass is greener over here, but in actual fact, he would have just been bounding himself to a debt slave system, which is absolutely in free fall at the moment. But we'll get into that later.
Mm-hmm.
Between the dates of the 21st of November, when he suspended the association agreement, and then the coup d'etat, which was a few months later in February, when these so-called protests started erupting all over Ukraine, you could see quite blatantly not only the same NGOs behind it, but even Western politicians were coming over and joining these protests. I mean, we had the likes of John McCain was at a rally with the leader of the Euro. He was there.
Yes,
with the
not only him, but the ambassador of the United States and the ambassadors of European countries, and Steinmeier, from Germany, and Polish politicians of all levels, the top Polish politicians, the Prime Minister of Lithuania. Lots of political leaders openly supported this coup, and they applied great pressure to Yanukovych. They made him sign the agreement when he was ordered not to use riot police, not to use force upon the protesters. But the protesters at that time had become violent. At first, the manifestations had been quite peaceful, but later on, after this provocation, and it was a provocation, there are proofs, there is evidence of it, that I mean, the provocation when the students had been beaten by riot police, and it was filmed, and it was broadcasted all over the world. Although nothing serious really happened, and we can see that manifestations in the Western countries are treated much more cruelly. But this was a trigger. This was a trigger for the people. It enraged the masses of people.
Helga, along with that, we had, there was an absolute influence from basically neo-Nazi parties, one of which, John McCain himself, was actually had a photo with the leader of the neo-Nazi Slavoba party. I may have pronounced that incorrectly.
Svoboda.
Yeah.
It means freedom.
Yeah. You also had Victoria Nuland. She was handing out cookies. Incidentally, Nuland's husband is Robert Kagan, who was the co-founder of the Neocon project for the New American Century, whose stated goal is to promote American global leadership and as a policy of military strength. I mean, it's painfully obvious for anyone who takes the attention to study it. I mean, Nuland herself admitted, this is on YouTube, that the US had invested $5 billion in the development of Ukraine for, quote, democratic institutions. So we have all these elements and ingredients that are there, so that you can clearly see that the West is trying to basically implement their own agenda. We have more evidence in this in a phone call that I'll play for the listeners shortly. Phone call between her and Payet. She basically handpicks the government, Helga.
Yes, sure. Well, Ukrainian politicians had always had strong ties with American officials, and the CIA had been present in Ukraine for a very long time, openly. There is even evidence that they occupied a whole floor in the building of Ukrainian Secret Service. The Security Service of Ukraine, it is called. And they had been given orders, directly through the head of the Security Service, Nelly Baychenko, who has got an American green card, which is also a well-known fact. So, of course, there is so much evidence. It is not even easy to recall all of the facts. This conversation, and then the leaked conversation, phone conversation of Catherine Ashton with the Estonian ambassador in Kyiv.
Yeah, we shall play that also when we get to that, because it's a vital component of the tragedy that happened. We've got a state of play here where the legitimate president has been overthrown. Possibly should play that for the listeners now,
yes.
Helga. Okay, so basically we're going to play the recorded phone call between Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Payet, basically picking the government of Ukraine. Now, this was way before any election took place, and it's rather insightful. So,
what do you think?
I think we're in play. The Klitschko piece is obviously the complicated electron here, especially the announcement of him as deputy prime minister. And you've seen some of my notes on the troubles in the marriage right now, so we're trying to get a read really fast on where he is on this stuff. But I think your argument to him, which you'll need to make, I think that's the next phone call we want to set up, is exactly the one you made to Yachts. And I'm glad you sort of put him on the spot on where he fits in this scenario. And I'm very glad he said what he said in response.
Good. So I don't think Klitsch should go into the government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you think, what, in terms of him not going into the government, just let him sort of stay out and do his political homework and stuff. I'm just thinking in terms of sort of the process moving ahead, we want to keep the moderate Democrats together. The problem is going to be Tony Book and his guys. And, I'm sure that's part of what Yanukovych is calculating on all of this.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy, what he needs is Klitsch and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week. I just think Klitsch going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Okay. Good. Well, do you want us to try to set up a call with him as the next step?
My understanding from that call, but you tell me, was that the big 3 were going into their own meeting, and that Yats was going to offer in that context a 3-way, 3+1 conversation or 3+2 with you. Is that not how you understood it?
No, I mean, that's what he proposed, but I think just knowing the dynamic that's been with them where Klitschko has been the top dog, he's going to take a while to show up for whatever meeting they've got. He's probably talking to his guys at this point, so I think you reaching out directly to him helps with the personality management among the 3, and it gives you also a chance to move fast on all this stuff and put us behind it before they all sit down and he explains why he doesn't like it.
Okay, good. I'm happy. Why don't you reach out to him and see if he wants to talk before or after?
Okay, will do. Thanks.
Okay, I've now written, one more wrinkle for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Can't remember if I told you this or if I only told Washington this, that when I talked to Jeff Feltman this morning, he had a new name for the UN guy, Robert Seri. Did I write you that this morning?
Yeah,
okay.
I saw that.
He's now gotten both Seri and Ban Ki-moon to agree that Seri could come in Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
So that would be great, I think, to help glue this thing and have the UN help glue it and, fuck the EU.
No, exactly. And I think we've got to do something to make it stick together because you can be pretty sure that if it does start to gain altitude, the Russians will be working behind the scenes to try to torpedo it. And again, the fact that this is out there right now, I'm still trying to figure out in my mind why Yanukovych that. But in the meantime, there's a Party of Regions faction meeting going on right now, and I'm sure there's a lively argument going on in that group at this point. But anyway, we could land Jelly side up on this one if we move fast. So let me work on Klitschko, and if you can just keep, I think we want to try to get somebody with an international personality to come out here and help to midwife this thing. And then the other issue is some kind of outreach to Yanukovych, but we probably regroup on that tomorrow as we see how things start to fall into place.
So on that piece, Jeff, I wrote the note, Sullivan's come back to me, VFR, saying you need Biden, and I said probably tomorrow for an attaboy and to get the deets to stick. So okay. Biden's willing.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, so that was the recorded phone call. It's a leaked phone call, a conversation between Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Payette. Payette is the United States ambassador to Ukraine, right? So anyway, you can clearly hear them hand-picking the post-coup government there, or the junta, I should say. Would you like to describe the 3 people that she named? And
Yatsenyuk, Poroshenko, and Klitschko?
Yes.
Well, basically, Poroshenko is a very rich man, a billionaire, an owner of confectionery plants, both in Ukraine and in Russia, which are still working, although they claim that Russia is an aggressor and Ukraine is waging a war with Russia, but still there are plants producing confectionery goods which belong to Poroshenko, which are still in the territory of Russia, in the city of Lipetsk, by the way. And he had also several plants, bus-producing plants, machine building also. And he had always been very ambitious. He wanted to become the prime minister in Yushchenko's government. But at that time, Julia Tymoshenko, perhaps you know that name, became the prime minister because she just managed to seize this position from Poroshenko. But Poroshenko didn't give up his hopes, and although he is totally ideologically cynical, because he had been working for Yanukovych. In fact, he was one of the founders of the Party of Regions, which was the party in which Yanukovych was the leader. He was a member of that party, and even one of the founders of that party. So he changed sides many times. But it was not a big surprise for the population, because almost every politician in Ukraine is absolutely devoid of any ideology. And they are always carrying out the policy of that is advantageous to them at the moment. Well, Klitschko seems to be supported by German politicians, by European politicians, and particularly by German. He was a great sportsman. He was a boxer, as you know, heavyweight boxer, world champion, and all the rest of it. But as a politician, he was just a cardboard figure, because he is not all that intellectual for a politician, not all that experienced as a politician. And now, at the position of the mayor of such a big city of Kiev, he had proved his absolute uselessness. Really, most of the population of Ukraine just laughs at him, because it is he's a very bad orator, and when he tries to speak, people always make fun of him, because he makes such stupid mistakes, such slips of tongue that cannot be forgiven to a politician. Well, that is why I think they didn't view him as a serious politician. They couldn't put him forward for some top position. So he had to be moved to the second level. And Yatsenyuk, he's always a very ambitious. He's also a very ambitious man, and he has very strong ties with the American establishment. Some people say, and there is some evidence, that he is a member of the Scientological church, this Scientologist confession. And I think that he is the representative of the globalists, the biggest corporations.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't hang about in implementing a central bank on the people of Ukraine, along with setting up all these IMF loans, most of which, as you pointed out earlier, have gone to arms and have just indebted the people of Ukraine into more debt slavery, really. The point is this, I mean, here you have a foreign ambassador, an American ambassador, picking the government of Ukraine before any election. It's quite incredible, Helga, isn't it?
Yes, it just shows that all this talk of democracy, of democratization, of struggle with corruption, it's just a smoke screen. It's just a smoke screen for the ordinary people.
Yeah.
Because nobody is really fighting corruption. In fact, corruption since Yanukovych was toppled, since this coup d'etat, corruption has grown manifold in Ukraine. And the Western institution admit it, because the ratings of the country had been lowered several times by these financial analytics.
Mm-hmm.
But the most outrageous thing is the cynical way in which they carried out this coup. I want to read an extract from one article, which is named "A Sequence of Lies." It says, in February of 2014, 100 people were killed in the center of Kyiv. Viktor Yanukovych was blamed of their death, and owing to this, he was toppled in the course of 3 days, as the people protesting in Maidan had been outraged by the deaths of their associates. Even then, doubts had been expressed that the fault for their death lies on Yanukovych, as murder was too obviously the last thing he would resort to under the circumstances. Nevertheless, all doubts had been promptly refuted. 8 months passed since the deaths of the Heavenly Hundred. Mustafa Nayyem and Sergei Leshchenko, these are the journalists. As I said, the media played a very important part in this fraud. And Sergei Leshchenko entered the parliament, having gained publicity, spinning the myth around their death. Turchia used the Hundred as a canopy for their punitive operation in Donbass. Poroshenko, Klitschko, Tymoshenko, and Lashko promised their electorate to find those guilty in their death. One would think that the power was totally in their hands, and they were not limited in the choice of methods. However, the names of the perpetrators of the Heavenly Hundred killing are still unknown. So this is about the shooting in Maidan.
Yes, that's the one. That's the sniper fire on the 20th of February 2014, Helga.
Yeah, sure.
I think now would be an appropriate time to play the leaked phone call then between Catherine Ashton and
Really?
Helga, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I thought we'd got cut off there for a moment. So I'll play the phone call between Ashton and Poet, which are describing the sniper fire on the 20th of February 2014. Now, this phone call is about 10 minutes long. Helga, I know you would have heard it many times, so if you'd like to get yourself a nice cup of tea or something, I shall play that for the listeners now. And again, it's vital to see what is going on politically in the background as all these events are taking place, and it again gives us a first insight into how these. So there we go. I'll go ahead and play that, Helga.
Okay.
Again, this is between Catherine Ashton, Piet Urmas.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
And you?
I'm good. I just wanted to catch up with you on what you thought when you were there.
Okay, yes, I returned last night already,
Yeah.
so that I was 1 day.
Yeah. Impressions?
Impressions are sad. I met with representatives of Regions Party, also new coalition representatives, and also civil society. There is this lady called Olga, who is the head of the know her.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, so that, well, my impression is in this sense sad that there is, well, no trust towards also these politicians who will return now to the coalition. Well, people from Maidan and from civil society, they say they know everybody who will be in new government. All these guys have dirty past.
Yeah.
So that, well, they made some proposals to the same Olga and some others from civil society to join new government. But this Olga, for example, she says directly that she's ready to go to the government only
in the case if she can take with her team foreign experts to start real healthcare reforms.
Yeah.
So that, well, basically it is that the trust level is absolutely low. On the other hand, all these security problems, these integrity problems, Crimea, all this stuff. Regions Party was absolutely upset. They say that, well, they accept this, that now there will be new government and there will be enormous pressure against the members of parliament, that there are uninvited visitors during the night to party members. Well, some journalists who were with me, they saw during the day that one member of parliament was just beat in front of the parliament building by these on the streets.
Yeah.
So that all this mess is still there. And of course, this Olga and others from civil society, they were absolutely sure that people will not leave the streets before they see that the real reforms will start. So that it's not enough that there is just change of government. So that is the main impression. So that from EU's and also, well, Estonia's point of view, of course, we should ready to put this financial package together with others.
Yeah.
This very clear message is needed that it's not enough that there is change of government, but the same real reforms, real action to increase the level of trust. Otherwise, well, it will end badly.
Yeah.
Because the Regions Party also said that, well, you will see that if the people from the eastern part of Ukraine will really wake up and will start to demand their rights. Some people also with me, they were in Donetsk. Their people said that, well, we can't wait how long still the occupation of Ukraine lasts in Donetsk.
Yeah.
That it is real Russian city, and we'd like now to see that, well, Russia will take over. So that, well, short impressions.
No, very, very interesting. I've just had a big meeting here with Olli Rehn and the other commissioners to talk about what we can do. I mean, we're working on financial packages, short, medium, long term, everything from how we get money in quickly, how we support the IMF, and how we get a kind of investment packages and business leaders and so on. On the political side, we've worked out resources we've got, and I offered to civil society and to Yevsenyuk and Fishko and everybody I met yesterday. We can offer you people who know how to do political and economic reform. The countries that are closest to Ukraine have themselves been through dramatic changes and have done big political and economic reforms. So we've got loads of experience to give you, which we're happy to give. I said to the people in Maidan, get through the short term first. So you need to find ways in which you can establish a process that will have anti-corruption at its heart, that will have people working alongside until the elections, and that you can be confident in the process. And I said to Olga, you may not be health minister now, but you need to think about becoming health minister in the future, because people like you are going to be needed to be able to make sure that happens. But I've also said to them, if you simply barricade the buildings now and the government doesn't function, we can't get money in because we need a partner to partner with.
Absolutely.
And I've said to the opposition leaders shortly to become government, you need to reach out to Maidan, you need to be engaging with them. You also need to get ordinary police officers back on the streets under a new sense of their role so that people feel safe. I said to the Party of the Regions people, you have to go and lay flowers where the people died. You have to show that you understand what has happened here. Because what you're experiencing is anger of people who've seen the way that Yanukovych lived and the corruption, and they assume you're all the same. And also the people who've lost people and who feel that, he ordered that to happen. There's quite a lot of shock, I think, in the city, a lot of sadness and shock, and that's going to come out in some very strange ways if they're not careful. So I think all of this we just have to work on. So we've done a big meeting here today to try and get this in place. But yeah, it's very interesting, your observation.
It is, and well, actually the only politician the people from civil society mentioned positively was Poroshenko.
Yeah.
So that he has some sort of, how to say, trust among all these Maidan people and civil society. And second, what was quite disturbing, the same Olga told that, well, all the evidence shows that people who were killed by snipers from both sides, among policemen and people from the streets, that they were the same snipers killing people from both sides.
Well, that's, yeah.
So that, and then she also showed me some photos. She said that as medical doctor, she can, say that it is the same handwriting, the same type of bullets, and it's really disturbing that now the new coalition, that they don't want to investigate what exactly happened, so that there is now stronger and stronger understanding that behind snipers, it was not Yanukovych, but it was somebody from the new coalition.
Interesting. Gosh.
Yeah, so that it was, in this sense, disturbing that if it starts now to live its own life very powerfully, that it already discreditates from very beginning also this new coalition.
I mean, this is what they've got to be careful of as well, that they need to demand great change, but they've got to let the RADA function. If the RADA doesn't function, then
Absolutely.
It's complete chaos. So that it's all, being an activist and a doctor is very, very important, but it means you're not a politician. And somehow they've got to come to a kind of accommodation for the next few weeks with how the country's actually going to run. And then we get the elections and things can change. And that's, I think, going to be quite important. I'm planning to go back early next week, probably on Monday.
It's really important that now people from Europe and also West show up there, so that it's absolutely.
Well, Miroslav's going with the Visegrad group on Friday, Saturday. William Hague's on Sunday. I'll be back again Monday.
Yes, I heard also that Canadian minister is going on Friday, and yesterday also William Burns was there. So we met. We met also with Burns there in Kiev yesterday.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I didn't know John Bird was going. I'll get hold of him. Okay, my friend. Great to talk to you.
Well, thanks for these comments, and wish you nice Australia.
Yeah. What?
Nice Australia. Enjoy.
I am not going to go. I've got to delay it because I'm going to do more Ukraine instead.
Okay, good.
All right, my friend.
Okay.
See you soon.
Thank you, and all the best. See you. Bye.
So there we have it, basically, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, you can see clear-cut intervention, Western intervention in the affairs of Ukraine.
Yes, absolutely incredible. These Western politicians, they do not represent the people. What you were just listening to there is how they represent the corporations. These people are there to manage these wars and things, and they always have done. Hello, can you hear me, Helga?
Yeah, you disappeared for a moment.
All right, yes.
And there is this echo.
You're coming through fine. How is that?
It's okay now.
Okay, I'll continue. I was just explaining to the listeners how what we have heard there are Western politicians who are supposed to be representing the people, but they're absolutely not. They're there, they're managing the situation. You could hear how they were arranging funding. They're not representatives of the people at all. They're there to simply represent private banking interests, and it's clearly laid bare for everyone to see here in that case.
Well, we have a clear-cut proof to it that people who represent the society, and I mean the people, the nations, and not the governments, they are coming here to Donbass and join in the people militias and are fighting on our side, on the side of Donbass, who is trying to liberate itself from Ukrainian occupants. So, we are fighting for the right cause, and the people in the world, the honest people, the people who like to analyze the facts, the situation, they are on our side. Because I don't mean only those who take arms in their hands. There are lots of people who just come here bring humanitarian aid for the children, for the elderly, for the sick people, for disabled people, and a lot of independent journalists who come here to in order to make footage of the hostilities, of the life of ordinary people here, and who do so much in order for the truth to break through. Because the mainstream media, Western countries, is not showing the real picture. Because they are always talking about Russian aggression. But I call upon the journalists of the world, you can come here. You can have our accreditation easily. And you will have an opportunity to see everything with your own eyes. Who is shelling the residential areas, and who is killing children and civilians, and who is doing really here, and that there are no Russian troops here. Every independent journalist who visited Donbass saw with his own eyes that there are no regular Russian troops, although there are, of course, some volunteers from Russia, as well as from Europe, from Italy, from Greece, from Spain, even from Brazil, even from the USA, as you must know.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 Americans right now in Donetsk. One is on the battleground. Perhaps you have heard about him. He's from Texas. And the other is from New Jersey, who is participating in this information war, as we call it. He's helping to throw light on the events here in Donbass. So, as you said, these people, these Western politicians, they do not represent their nations. But we know that there are honest people and sincere people in the West who are on our side to support us. Grateful to them for their efforts. We are grateful to you, Darren, for what you are doing in this direction too. It is very important. You must be sure that it is really very important for us, and we appreciate it greatly.
Thank you, Helga, and our listeners will appreciate it, and of course you have the support of the working class man and woman everywhere in the world. We are focused on it, although the propaganda, they do own the media and the papers, but through outlets like ourselves, we're able to get the truth through, and it's quite self-evident that what is going on in Ukraine is basically a war on the working class man, and to steal the assets of the people in order to facilitate this Western Ponzi scheme of central banking. I mean, it's an insidious system, and the people of Eastern Ukraine are standing up and fighting for us all. And we also thank you and the people there, Helga. We are closely tied, not only by the bonds of our morals and duties, as is on clear display for everyone to see in Eastern Ukraine. You have people from all over Europe and the world that have formed over, going back to the 18th century and before, to the times of John Hughes, yes, from Merthyr Tydfil, and everyone we mentioned at the beginning of the show. It clearly is a bonding of working class people from all over the world. I'd just like to move on and highlight some of the other tragedies, Helga, if you've got the time, or would you like to take a rest here and we can pick this up another time?
I suppose we can do it the next time. We can leave several subjects for discussion for the future.
Yes, I mean, I wanted to touch on obviously the tragedy in Odessa.
Mm-hmm.
We got the corporations that have moved in, Monsanto, the fracking firms, the connection there with the politicians, i.e. you've got the Vice President, Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, who's working for a gas company. So we can clearly depict and show you proper forensic evidence that ties these politicians to the private firms. I mean, I'd like to touch on Crimea another time with you, and of course MH17. But the currency of Ukraine has imploded now, and the people of eastern Ukraine, they're using a basket of currencies. But more importantly, you've actually kicked the central bankers out, and there's a true People's Bank there. Helga, is that not true?
Well, it is. At this stage, it is only in the process of establishment, because it is not easy to start our own bank system. We are trying to do it via the Republic of Abkhazia. You know that in the Minsk agreements, they among the provisions of the Minsk agreement, there is one that promises the establishment of our own bank system, and even Chancellor Merkel promised that Germany will participate in the creation of a separate bank system for the east of Ukraine. But they didn't move further from these promises. They didn't actually do anything to stop the economic blockade the region is suffering from right now. That is why we are trying to establish our own bank system.
Yes.
Of course, it is great progress. It is our great achievement that the pensions, the retirement age paid pensions are already being paid to the retired people in Donbass, because they had been left without any resources, without any means of livelihood for almost half a year by Ukrainian government. Although it is Ukrainian government that has the obligation to provide for those people. They had been working all their lives for the Ukrainian state, and it was a direct violation of all international laws that Ukrainian government stopped paying pensions and subsidies. But nothing changed. Nothing changed since the Minsk agreement. The economic blockade is still going on. Only 10% of our economy is now working. Lots of enterprises have been closed, and they are starting to get launched very, very tentatively, and eventually we will relaunch our economy. And then when each business in the territory of the DPR start paying taxes to the DPR, to our republic, only then will we be able to create a real banking system and to provide all spheres of our social life. I mean, to pay medical workers, to pay teachers. They are being paid right now, but our economy is still in the process of being re-established, because many businessmen left for mainland Ukraine. A lot of them became refugees, and they are in Russia at the moment. They had to leave their homes, they had to leave their businesses and flee. So this situation is transitional now, but we are hoping for the best, because we have already got some achievements in this sphere. as I said, people are receiving pensions already. People are receiving salaries in rubles because Ukrainian currency is flowing out of the region.
Yes, it's absolutely tanking at the moment. Yeah, the goal would be to have the Donetsk a people's currency, interest-free and for the people. But anyway, Helga, I shan't keep you no more because I realise you're very busy and you know the situation. But we'll be delighted to pick this up again when you've got another some more free time. Would that be okay?
Yes, of course. I hope so.
We've only just barely scratched the surface in depicting the events that have taken place up until now.
Well, there are so many important issues to be discussed, so many of them. So I don't even know how much time will it take.
Yeah,
but
well, we'll get there.
But step by step, yeah,
indeed,
we will do it.
Absolutely. Thank you on behalf of all our listeners, Helga, and I personally thank you very much as well from everyone here at the Common Law Court of Wales. Would you like to?
Thank you for listening.
Would you like to just give the listeners any information or websites that they can find, you know, the truth of what's going on in Ukraine?
Well, basically, there are so many good websites right now at the moment. I don't know, should I just tell or give you the links and you will just show to the people? I don't know. Or should I do it?
Yeah, I mean, if you know them by name, you can say them out, and I shall also put the links on our Facebook page and things if you like. Yes.
Well, first of all, most people are present or have profiles in Facebook.
Yeah.
Am I right? So we can give them the name of this group in which we had met. By the way.
Yes.
Truth about situation in Ukraine. I'm one of the administrators of this page. It is called Truth About Situation in Ukraine in Facebook. So people can go there for the updates. We post the information on the event in Donbass every day, round the clock. So they can go there. And they can also use the page which I administrate. It is called Novorossiya Info English. Novorossiya Info English, also in Facebook. Then I can give you the address of our site, the site of our public organization, Novorossiya. The address is Novorossiya Today. Novorossiya Today.
There we go. That's excellent. That'll be followed up.
It has versions in different languages. It has an English page, a German page, a Spanish one, a French one, and even a Polish one. Yeah, and of course a Russian page.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okay, well, thank you very much again on behalf of myself and all the listeners and everyone at the Common Law Court of Wales.